Welcome to GreenBiz Studio. I'm Elaine Shea, Verge Program Director, and I'm here with Alex Keros, Smart City Chief at General Motors. Hi, Alex.
Hi.
Hi, Smart City Chief. What a cool title.
I know.
So can you tell me so it's interesting because, I don't know any other large automotive company that has a Smart City Chief. So if you could help us understand what your scope of responsibility actually is, would be great.
Yeah, no, so I am the Smart City Chief at Maven, our mobility platform, and my scope of responsibilities are sort of multiple. One aspect of it is really helping the team think about electrifying our fleet. So a lot of my expertise comes from helping launch the Volt and thinking about infrastructure development with cities and thinking with stakeholders and charging station providers. And then the other side, which is probably the neatest part of my job, is really thinking about how do I work with different stakeholders to come back to General Motors to think about sort of the products and services that we have at Maven to sort of create these multiplier effects. So if a city's thinking about streets and thinking about planning and thinking about mobility, what are those things that are really positive cues? What are those things that they're looking to accomplish for their residents, for their constituents? And bringing those back to Maven and say, hey, how do we think about these things? How do we think about economic development in a different way? How do we think about planning for streets? And so, of course, Maven in General Motors knows cars, and so the basis of this is Maven car sharing and Maven peer sharing and our Maven gig product that supports ride hailing, and then trying to figure out how do you electrify that because cities want to take those vehicles off. How do we reduce congestion? How do we think about those things? So in many respects, I like to think I'm a bit of a translator and helping sort of the different parties, but it's also bringing together as a collaborative entity to think about how do we solve the General Motors cannot solve for cities.
Right.
And by itself, we need a lot of stakeholders, we need a lot of input. We also need really good partners in thinking about problems that we sometimes don't really know about, like planning, right? And if you think about cities aren't solving for mobility, they're solving for access for their constituents, they're solving for economic opportunities, they're solving for safety. So how do I bring those things back to General Motors and Maven to make it meaningful for our team?
So it's not just the technology that you're trying to push or the models for Maven, it's also the policy and the engagement and the collaboration. So how are you seeing cities, when they come over to you and they say, I want to be a smart city, Alex, help me be one. What do you say a smart city actually is?
Well, I positively reinforce right off the bat and say you are a smart city. But I mean, really what it comes down to is cities have different personalities and different priorities, and some cities might have challenges with safety and intersections, and other cities might have challenges with connectivity and those sorts of things. So what I like to be able to do is sit down and be a good listener at first and understand what are the challenges they're working to solve. I think City of Columbus, when they won the Smart City Challenge, their priority was infant mortality in the Linden neighborhood. And you think about that, that's a pretty big thing to try to solve for. And you start to appreciate that mobility, for example, can be a really neat solution set. So I think smart cities have to understand what their goals are, and then it's the job of, I think, the private industry partners as well as NGOs, planning officials to come together to go, okay, how do we put those pieces together? What are the tools in our toolbox to start to address some of these things? Number one key aspect is to go do. I think it's clear that if you're not going out and testing and trying these things, you won't learn from them. And if you don't learn from them, then we're back to square one. So it really is going out and really fostering this environment of how do we go learn from each other and make it better for all that are living in urban centers.
It's a great perspective. Thank you so much for that wisdom, being people-centric and community-level thinking at the systems side.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us, Alex.
Thanks.